Let's talk about nuclear reactors. During the time of the Manhattan Project, there were two organizations interested in nuclear reactors. One was the U.S. Army, the supervising force behind the Manhattan Project, and the other was the U.S. Navy. The Army's reactors were built first. The first two of them we would call research reactors because they didn't have a production role of any kind. They were just tools to find out how things worked in the environment of a nuclear reactor. The first one, of course, was the famous Chicago Pile 1, CP1, which was constructed on the campus of the University of Chicago in a very risky move. The second was Reactor X-10 at Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which was a much larger scale nuclear reactor and one that was actually useful for something besides just a proof of concept. And finally came the plutonium production reactors at Hanford, Washington, which were never used to produce energy. They were used only to produce plutonium for the purpose of constructing bombs. Now, the Navy's attitude toward nuclear reactors was different. They saw them as a potential boundless source of energy for ship propulsion, which in fact they are. The first Navy nuclear reactor, a prototype, was constructed out in the deserts of Idaho, just to keep it away from people who might be affected by it. And the second one was on the Nautilus, the first nuclear-powered submarine, which was launched, I believe, in 1953. So, from the beginning, the Navy saw nuclear reactors as a way of freeing themselves from fossil fuels, from coal and oil and other things which had to be loaded onto their ships at inconveniently short intervals in order to keep them steaming around the world. Today, all the Navy's submarines and all the Navy's aircraft carriers are powered by nuclear reactors. In the case of the submarines, it's typically one nuclear reactor. In the case of a large aircraft carrier, it can be 4 or 8 nuclear reactors of similar design. They have the good sense to use very similar designs on their power reactors for these ships, and they just use more of them if they need more power. These reactors are designed to operate for 10 to 25 years without refueling. And at the end of that period, the fuel is removed and the reactors are cut out of the ship and buried in pits at Hanford, Washington. There has never been an accident, a nuclear accident on a Navy nuclear-powered ship. This is an outstanding safety record, and it shows that nuclear reactors can be operated with a very high degree of safety as long as the people operating them are properly trained and supervised. Nuclear reactors need to use something called a moderator, because it turns out that the neutrons which are released by fission are too energetic. They pass through other nuclei too quickly to interact effectively with them. So it is necessary to moderate the neutrons, to slow them down. And this can be done with a solid, liquid, or gas. The solid that was used in the earliest reactors was graphite. The liquid that's used in most power reactors today is water under high pressure. And the gas which is used in some power reactors is helium in high-temperature gas-cooled reactors, of which there are a few in operation.